Hey, welcome back to the CAGED roadmap course. You may be thinking to yourself, well, I've heard of CAGED in the past, but exactly what is it? To me, it's a system to let you see chord shapes up and down the fretboard. That's really all it is. So for example, if I have a C chord, that's not really a C chord. That is a chord shape that just happens to be called C when the guitar is in standard tuning in the open position, right? And I'll prove that to you real quick. What if I take a capo and stick it on the first fret, and then play a C shape there? Well, it's a C shape, just because that's kind of our nomenclature as guitarists, right? But really, it's a C sharp or D flat now, because all my root notes have moved up from a C, up 1/2 step, to now a D flat or a C sharp. Now, with that in mind, I can take any of my open chords, C, A, G, E, D, CAGED, right? C, A, G, E, D. Any of those chords, move them up and down the fretboard with that capo to play different chord shapes. And you already do this with your bar chords. And like one of the first things you learn, well, maybe not one of the first things, but one of the early things that you learn when you're playing guitar is how to take this E chord and move it up and put a bar down and play an F, right? Or G, or an F sharp, or a B flat, or an A. And all you're doing is taking this E, moving it up a half step, just like this with a capo, only doing it with a bar, right? And it's an E chord, right? Shape, but we're really playing an F chord because all of our root notes move up from E's to F's. And if we go up another half step, I have an F sharp, and if we go up another half step, I have a G. And all we do as guitar players, like we learn mostly our E and A bar chord shapes, and we learn to move them around. But the CAGED system is really learning how to do that with all 5 of those chords, C, A, G, E, and D. And it's cool because if I have a C, F, G progression, if I learn how to use all of those chords all over the fretboard, up and down, and I can move any of those shapes to where they're C's, F's, and G's, I'll be able to play that chord progression anywhere on the fretboard. So like if I'm playing with a cover band that has another guitar player, I can stay off of his toes and play in a different position. Or if I'm playing in a band where there's a keyboard player and things are getting kind of muddy down here at the low end, I can play up a little higher. So for example, instead of playing just C, F, G, I could play C, F, G, or I could play C, F, G, or I could play C, F, G, or I could play C, F, G. Now all I did was I took those basic CAGED shapes, learned where they were up and down the fretboard, and it takes a lot of work getting the notes on the fretboard out to do that. But I learned them just to the point where I can play them in any context, anywhere on the fretboard. And you already do this if you're learning E and A bar chord shapes. It just seems like almost impossible when you try to tackle all 5 of them at the same time. So we're gonna go really slowly throughout this course and do them one at a time. That way it doesn't feel like a huge thing. Just think of it just like when you were learning your E and A bar chord shapes. And if you haven't learned those yet, you want to go to the bar chord masterclass, because that takes you step by step and teaches you how to play bar chords and makes it a lot easier on you, gives you great technique. So your bar chords will be really clear here on the site. And the first module is free for all Guitar Fan members. And if you're a premium member, also you'll be able to access the whole thing. So here's the thing. I could play, and we'll get into this more later, I could play a C like this. I could play a C with the A shape. I could play a C with a G shape. I could play a C with the E shape. I could play a C with the D shape. And then back to a C shape. And if you notice the sequence of those chords, I just played C, right? A, CAGED, right? C, A, G, E, D, and back around to C. So really when I think of a C chord, I think of the whole giant shape on the guitar, and I can see it because I put in the work to be able to, move the shapes around, and I've memorized the fretboard, which we'll get to later in the reference module. But I can see the whole thing that way. It doesn't matter where I go. I can pull any shape that I want out, and they're all C chords, but I can pick the one that I want based on the context of the music that I'm playing, which is very important. It's very great for your creativity, and it's great for your versatility as a musician. And this is fantastic not only for rhythm guitar, it allows you to play chord progressions anywhere on the fretboard, but it's also great for your lead guitar. It's like the second half of this course. It's great for lead guitar because if you could see all those notes, all the notes in a C chord all the way up and down the fretboard, all the C's, E's, and G's, that's how you spell a C major chord, the 1, 3, the 5 have a C major chord, don't worry about that. We'll get into that more a little bit later as far as the theory of it. But if I can see all those notes in every C major chord when I'm playing a solo over a C major chord, then it's going to be really a lot easier for me to pull out the important notes of that C chord as they're being played. I know where all the C's, E's, and G's are, so like to have all those notes at my disposal, and then I can, go into pentatonic. But if I do pentatonics, I need to know where the important notes are to land on to make my lead playing fit over the chord changes, and that's kind of what we'll get to later on. But I said that to say this: CAGED is fantastic for not only rhythm guitar but lead guitar too as well. And once I can see, like for example, I'm playing over C chord. If I can see all the C's, E's, and G's on the entire fretboard, then all the C chords, then it's going to be a lot more difficult for me to get lost. And I'm just going to I've opened the doorway to play anything I want on the guitar as far as chord voicings or lead guitar stuff too. It's really a roadmap or a scaffolding or skeleton for the important notes in any chord you're playing over. Now that's just the version of major chords. There's a version for minor chords too that you can do with this. All right, so that's my long-winded definition of what the CAGED system is. It's basically just a scaffolding or roadmap for all the important notes in the different chord positions up and down the fretboard. Now, as you go through the material in this course, it's going to be very important that you pick a commitment level and stick to it, because it is a lot of work, but it's the type of work where you don't have to put in a ton of time every day. It's more important for you to do it very often and very consistently. That way it forces your brain to recall it again and again and again. And the cool thing about this is you don't have to be around a guitar to practice this type of stuff. Yes, you have to be around a guitar to get the actual physical ability to shift through the chords down, but you don't have to be around a guitar to work on the mental game of this. And when I'm playing different songs, often I'll treat this like a game. I'll think, how many different ways can I play, say it's a C, F, G progression? How many different ways can I play a C, F, G progression around the guitar? There's one, here's a C, F, G, C, F, G, C, F, G, C, F, G, right? And then once you add one chord into the mix, let's say it's a 4-chord progression, things kind of get a little bit more complicated and they get a little bit more challenging, but the more time you spend drilling your CAGED sequence of chords for all your major chords up and down the fretboard and for your minor chords, the easier it will be for you to kind of have, I think of it as a Rolodex on a guitar. I see this big C chord laying over it. And when I change to an F chord, it like flips and rotates to an F. And then when I see it, when a chord changes to like say an A minor, it'll flip again and I'll see all the notes for A minor. And that gives me my stations, my performance stations for playing either rhythm guitar or lead guitar, and it's very freeing. So before we get any further in this module, I just want to address, there is a little bit of controversy about CAGED. Some people are like, well, it's CAGED for a reason, because it cages you into this mentality on the guitar where you're always thinking about these shapes. I just want to say that CAGED does not happen in a vacuum. It's not the only thing I think about when I play, but it is something I see. Another thing that I think about is the entire key. What key am I in? So if I'm in the key of C major, I might see a C major scale if I'm playing in this area of the guitar. Or I might be thinking C major pentatonic, or I might be thinking just the note names on the guitar, like that's a C, that's a C, right? Or I might be thinking intervals or something like that as far as improvising. But I'm just saying it doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's not the only thing I think about, or I don't think it should be the only thing you think about, but it is a good core kind of scaffolding or roadmap to get down very well, so you can have a kind of a bird's eye view of all the important notes for whatever you're doing, whether you're playing rhythm or lead guitar. Now, as far as rhythm or lead guitar, to say another little example, David Becker, I was doing a video with him once, and he said, oh, I'd like to think about triads and CAGED chords as ice or water. Now, when you think about it like that, if you know where a C chord is, like this, C uses an A shape, don't worry if you don't know this yet. That's ice, that's static, I'm hitting everything at once. It's not flowing. And that's rhythm guitar, because I'm hitting everything at once, right? But what about if it's water? Water is like lead guitar. I can go from this to picking individual notes out of the chord shape. And just putting different rhythmic ideas with it allows you to play over really weird chord progressions or really standard chord progressions without too much effort. And it gives you all the important notes in that chord. All the way up and down the fretboard. So is CAGED the be-all and end-all for fretboard layout systems? No, but it is and I think an extremely important and very useful part that will make guitar playing a lot easier for you if you put in the effort and time to get this down really well. Okay, I think I've rambled enough in this video. Again, if you have any questions at all or want to send us any videos for review, please do that, support@guitarfam.com. And if you haven't already, go to guitarfam.com and create your complimentary account. You'll get to access the first module of all of our premium courses. And if you want to upgrade to a premium monthly or annual membership, then you'll get access to the entire library of premium courses. I'll see you in the next video. We're going to take a look at a little bit of major chord theory.